players who basically make nothing and have to play. Like you have Stan King quitting his job and trying to
Stan
play, and
King,
he
that's who
doesn't.
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he doesn't qualify. So all of a sudden he has all these regrets because there's no money. And but now hopefully there's going to be, you know, there's actually going to be sponsors. There's going to be team houses. There's going to be coaches, and things are just going to get a lot better. I kind of lost my train of thought there actually because I was thinking about Stan King's job, but I think it's like a server analyst or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But basically, I've always thought that there's been this gap
Void.
between
Yeah.
there's information that tier two players have available to them, like they have tier two players are good at the game, man. Like I mean that's Sumail was a tier two player when he was on brought onto EG, and he swamped people mid, dude. He crushed. He was a tier two player. I was literally playing against Sumail in these friggin' battle cup things every these like weekly tournaments, and the guy is just an absolute monster. He was a tier two player, and I mean they're just there's skills that tier two players have, and there's a community that cares about this information. People get hyped in Dota. They want to be competitive at Dota, not like competitive as in professional. People want to win, and I really think that there's a lot of business, a lot of money that could be made making businesses that kind of bridge that gap of bringing to the community some of the information that the tier one players, it wouldn't be worth their time to do it, but for the tier two players, they could make some money doing it. And allowing third party organizations to make money in Dota and to actually have prospects in Dota is tremendous for doing exactly that, for bridging that gap. Because before people were too scared to invest in Dota because it's like, well, Valve is just doing the majors.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be MLG and get your own major. You can't do that. But
Yeah.
now there's going to be so many companies swarming into Dota that there's going to be all these businesses and all these ideas popping up, all of this money for the tier 2 scene, which is going to breed more tier 1 players, more, interesting Dota on the tier 2 level, potentially land qualifiers maybe,
Yeah.
maybe we'll even get to that point. God,
Absolutely. I
it's
think there's
exciting.
just going to be so much more money just because there's going to be so many more tournaments. Like I would be willing to bet there's going to be at least 4 majors next year. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah,
more. And in
for
regards
sure.
to the minors, I mean, you just need 150K. I mean, if these third parties are already able to pull in 100K, uh, find fucking 50 more. You know what I mean? And if there's more of these
Yeah, yeah.
tournaments going around, it's going to be more
Oh shit.
likely that what.
I remembered what my point was earlier when I lost my
Okay,
train of
what is
thought. All
it?
right, let me get this out. Okay, a lot of people I would talk to a lot of people in the scene about this problem, the tier two, the whole problem of no money being in tier two, the whole problem of organizations not wanting to get into Dota, basically everything that Valve was looking to solve. And I was just so confident that Valve knew. And what scared me was that I thought maybe they knew and that they didn't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, not that they didn't care, as in they they're like Satan or something like that. I don't mean it in a negative way, but I meant I
like what's
thought
in it for
maybe
them?
I exactly I thought maybe that Valve was deciding essentially that this game is going to die soon anyway. We're going to essentially profit from it, which of course is an organization that's perfectly reasonable. You want to
Yeah,
profit. But for me, I was thinking like I could see I could see this game going for quite some time as long as it organically grew, as long as you had this ecosystem where there's tons of organizations involved in making money in this esport. And I was thinking I knew Valve, I knew it was on Valve's radar. I
yeah,
knew it was before the Toby post, before all of this stuff. Like there's no way that they didn't know. Those people are so brilliant. Like they're you have to be fucking genius to work at Valve, and there's no way they don't know. There's no way they don't know. I mean, Ice Frog, if just Ice Frog was on the Dota team, he would know that this is a problem, because people have complained about this for years and years and years. It's just not openly, because people have been scared of what maybe the backlash would be from the community, or maybe Valve wouldn't like that you're going against the grain. But they showed that essentially they they knew they knew all along, and they were just trying to decide what was. They were trying to come up with a system that was essentially the best, what they thought would actually work. Because it's very easy to point out problems, it's much harder to actually solve them. So I'm just glad that at the very least they've offered a solution, and they've shown that essentially, okay, we don't think this game is dead yet. We think this game has a lot of life in it, and we're going to try and change the structure. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't work next year, maybe you and I are both wrong. Maybe there won't be four majors. Maybe there's just something fucked up about the whole system. But I think if there is, Valve will take note, and then next year it's just gonna be positive changes from now on. You know what I mean? That they're openly making making changes
Yeah,
involving
and they're coming up with very well thought out plans because I mean this is very well thought out. The whole quality
yeah.
points thing, and there being a leaderboard for it, and I mean just everything is so well thought out. I think, and
You can basically tell that there was a lot of theory crafting on this
oh
behind the
yeah,
scenes.
and I don't see any flaws in it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people will see a new idea and immediately see the flaws in it, but I don't see any flaws in this whole idea here. I mean, I think
I,
it can
I
only
think
bring good things.
I think Nahaz did a video. I'm sure he found some flaws in it. The guy's a genius.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
I'm sure he did. But you know, well, once again, I get the kind of more important thing is that we have an organization that basically Valve is such a weird company. It's not like Riot. Like it's not. I don't even know if I want to call it a company. It's kind of like they're something different. They're like a club. They're kind of like it basically. I could see them killing their own game, not because they're intentionally doing it, not because they're not brilliant people, but essentially because what they're doing as a company just hasn't really been done before. That there could just be things that go wrong because who knows what can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I could see that happening, and that's kind of what my fear was that is something being lost in the ether here? Like is Valve just is this just is something just not getting through to them because of just their
Right,
structure or whatever?
right.
But I'm
Well,
glad
maybe
we
they've
essentially
just
we
been,
essentially
like you said, theory crafting for years, and
I
it
think
just took
so.
this long to come up with this
I think
idea.
I think basically that's what's been happening. I'm just happy that we have essentially this entity that's developing this game, that's developing this esport that has essentially shown that it it does know what it's doing. And I say entity because I don't want to call Valve a company, because
Yeah,
really no company that's that rich and that large has their structure. So they're something different. They're not. It's pretty special. I mean, it's pretty awesome. And it would have been really sad to see Dota just go down the drain because of compendiums and Valve majors and stuff,
yeah,
because of just things getting lost in communication within the company or whatever.
yeah. I love it, man. I love it. And 2015 is when I started playing. I started playing right after TI5, and I was told by Space. He was like, we were both really, really new. He's like, yeah, this past international tournament, it's the biggest one. Like Dota's dying from here on out, and I was like, no, yeah.
Every year,
He
everybody
says
says
it every
that.
year. He says it every year. I was like, no, man, you're wrong, and he's wrong every year.
And that's the thing. I feel like if there's any organization, I mean, my big fear is always that the game dies. It's a game. Games get boring. Games die. But it's an esport, and historically speaking, esports is something that's completely new. And if there's any company that can essentially invent the wheel, so to speak, in this industry, that can kind of do things right and kind of turn esports into sports, into what real sports is, it's Valve.
Yeah,
So
I
it
agree.
just it's just because they're just I mean they're something special. They're like fuck. It's such a weird company, you
I
know.
agree,
So
man.
it's definitely they can definitely do it, and it was music to my ears. I was so happy, even though we just missed the qualifier for TI. Like we just uh, got kicked out of it, and they announced it, and I was so happy, even though we just lost, because it's
That's
just like
awesome, man.
Valve, they're listening, man. They got
Yeah,
their shit together.
that is awesome. I'm so glad because I feel bad for teams that are just so close to these huge payouts, and you're just like,
Yeah,
fuck, man. I just can't imagine how they feel, and
yeah, it sucks. It's bad.
yeah, I just really hate that for you. But I'm glad you were at least able to experience them do this, and you were able to find some joy in that because
Yeah, because I feel like next year is going to be a good year. That's pretty much what I'm. And I feel like my prospects as somebody who really enjoys video games and currently plays video games professionally, and eventually I would want to maybe make my own little game, something like that.
yeah,
I want to do gaming.
yeah,
So it's just nice to hear that gaming is going good.
it
That's
is
just
going good.
it's
It
nice
is
it's
going
nice
good.
to it's nice to hear that. As
It
like
is.
silly as that sounds.
Well, let's get off this train. I think we've
Oh yeah, we've
talked
nailed
about
this one.
enough. We both obviously love this new concept, and this upcoming year is gonna be really exciting. More exciting for you than for me, because I still don't stand a chance to make anything. But that's okay. When did you? I want to totally change the direction here, because I just have a few things that I want to ask you. When did you get into Dota?
Basically, I just recently graduated from university.
Uh huh.
I got a CS degree. Just because I feel like I should say what degree it is, because Anyway, but in second year in university, so I took a 5-year degree,
Uh
and
huh.
in second year in university, I got into Dota. My roommate got a beta invite, and he had one for me, and basically I played Ursa for like 400 games, and that hero was the scourge of Dota at that point. Not in competitive, not in high rated games, but just in low rated games. Basically, his Fury swipes, like the thing that makes him attack faster, had no cast points. So you could just run around like super fast attacking people with zero wind up. It was insane, and he did like a billion more damage and stuff. But anyway, I was just like a dirty Ursa spammer for a long time, and
Dude,
and
I am
it's,
too. It's okay.
it's dude, it's still a good hero, man.
It is a
It's
good hero.
it's still a good hero.
It's my
And
most played hero, actually.
that's a fucking hero owns, man. Basically, he's good against any offlaner.
Yeah.
That's like the kind of the best thing about that hero. But then I started watching competitive Dota, as everybody does. I think slowly started getting better. Eventually played in some MLG, like small league. I felt the buzz, and I was like, "Fuck, man, this feels good."
You love it?
Just like stealing Aegises and stuff like that. Slowly but surely started joining better and better teams and playing on different teams. Now, basically any team of like friends that, any team of like people in like 7K games that I would join now would basically compete in the qualifiers and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like
Yeah.
I've surpassed the amateur level just by virtue of being within the social circles of people who are really good at Dota now. It's really a social
Yeah.
thing. It's strange.
Yeah, how does
Basically,
that
I
happen? Like, how does one get on a team like that, you
basically
know?
I got in the quote unquote circles of skilled players by just playing a fuckload of pubs and then just adding people, slowly but surely becoming friends with a lot of. So now I'm just friends with a bunch of really great Dota players, which is sweet. And basically any grouping of 5 of them would compete. When I was saying that, I don't mean me. I'm not like some like sick player. I mean, I'm decent, but basically any grouping of 5 of these people within these NA Dota groups would be capable of competing in these qualifiers, because it's just a bunch of good players. So
So it's just another time that you can say you got to know people.
basically, yeah, basically that's it.
Well,
The way
first you
the
got to
way
be really good, and then you got to know people.
yeah, I think the way that I did it back in the day was different from how people do it now. I'm pretty sure a lot of it now is pubbing. Back in the day, though, it was kind of it was it was more like social. It was like you can pub nowadays and get on a good team, but back in the day, I think there was a lot more of like a barrier for entry, because there wasn't MMR or anything like that.
Yeah.
And because we were actually on Leviathan, we were a bunch of like 5K rated players playing against like 6K rated or 7K, 6 and 7K rated players, and we were doing perfectly fine just because we had good synergy. But nowadays, basically, if you're not 7K, you're not going to be capable. People aren't really going to take you on a team for the most part, which isn't that big of a deal, because it's not that hard to get 7K. If you invest a lot of time and you grind, like eventually you'll just get good enough. So
Yeah, maybe.
there's a pretty straight path now, basically.
Yeah, maybe in 10 years when Dota's still thriving and I've
Yeah.
had enough experience, I'll be there.
Hey man, it's all about those MMR gains, dude. The
Yeah.
psychology. That's what it's all about.